He is clocked out.
Yeah,
he's-
I know.
George has been under a tremendous amount of abuse.
No,
No, stop, George. I want you over here with me. George, I want you over here with me. Chase him down. Go. You find him. George, no, go get him.
We are about to walk through the disastrous effects of not being cognizant of the differing personalities in your environment. George made a fatal mistake here, not being willing to play in the gruesome way that people like Bobby Lee are so accustomed to. In holding Bobby in such high respect, George failed to speak Bobby's language, leading to him being singled out and eventually shut down by his co-hosts as well. After Bobby's window of opportunity towards George closes, when George tries to participate in the banter, he is only met with scorn and venom. Through tense nonverbal warfare, let's understand how George spirals out of control and loses the favor of not only Bobby Lee, but also the host who he relied on most in his time of need, causing George to slam the ejection button, burning bridges as he stormed out.
Hey, yes.
What's up, baby?
Yes.
You Confederate motherfucker.
What's up, bro? I like your f machine. Yeah, I can tell, dude. And you got Ahmed over here, dude. What's that? I love the Quran. Don't you love the Quran?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I love what you do. And I love all people, dude. Yeah. You got a fucking thick one down there, like a Cambodian jungle.
Oh my God.
George is a fervent Christian, but we see him laugh and accept Bobby's joke without even correcting him. Why is this beneficial to budding relationships? Within our introductions, it is generally wise to be more lenient in what we allow with regards to jokes made at our expense. This leniency is a social grace that is given at the beginning of potential relationships in order to maximize the chances of a budding future relationship. In a wise scenario, the leniency and social grace that we provide at the beginning of a relationship should taper the longer you know a person. So what starts in the beginning as accepting everything in order to be congenial soon shifts into an attempt to understand the other person's character. And in this shift to understanding, we begin to decrease the allowance of potentially disrespectful cues that we have previously allowed. George will allow us to visualize this phenomenon in real time as we see him accept Bobby's jokes about him in the beginning, but he fails to transition to that stage of character understanding where one would progressively taper the amount of disrespect that they accept. Because of this, George ends up going from one extreme to the other, completely accepting everything until it boils inside of him and turns into a deep resentment, causing him to have to evacuate. Bobby initiates the first physical contact between them aside from the introductory handshake. This is important to remember for later. Bobby touching George here without any sort of hesitation clues us in on two things. The first being that Bobby assumes that George is fine with being touched. The second being that we generally don't assume these things about people unless it also applies to ourselves. And so through the quickness and lack of hesitancy that Bobby touches George, we can assume that Bobby would be okay with being touched as well.
KSI, man. What a real thick.
Oh, bro,
Thick-
can you imagine how big his probably
Strong,
is?
thick, right?
100%.
Bigger than yours.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yours is like sand. So, buddy, how are you? Yeah. Yours, if I
fizzles
touch it, just
to the palm of your hand.
sand.
Only
Wait,
the chosen one.
Yeah.
We see George accept another joke at his expense, again giving Bobby the initial social graces of a new relationship. But will he let it go on for too long?
Yeah.
You know he's my business partner, right?
You know him?
What do you mean I know him?
I know. I
was like-
came in here. I already knew the thing, man.
Okay.
I did trickery with you, man.
Sorcery.
Yeah, this Asian trickery. Man. I know you're a Christian, man. I just f***ed around, dude. I love the Jesus. I'm a big fan of yours. I don't know about much, but you know what I heard about you, bro?
Bobby again initiates that physical contact, but this time with repentance for what he said earlier. He recognized internally that George didn't call him out on it. So in order to show George that he wants to be on equal footing, he recalls his previous transgressions. This is Bobby's way of indirectly telling George, this type of humor is how I communicate.
What I'm about to say, you're gonna love it. Okay? Can I touch you here?
Absolutely.
Okay. You can.
Again, Bobby touches George, this time getting verbal consent. Bobby feels the need to ask for that consent because he has not felt the reciprocity from George, which cues us into the reality that their relationship is beginning to move in the wrong direction.
Some would argue that because of your ethnicity and the difficulties that you've had to face with racism, that you have the liberty to do such thing. We're white kids.
I was addicted to for a
I
decade.
don't want us to
yeah,
change your
yeah.
color of your
bro.
skin.
They just
looked at you and assumed you dealt with it.
Bro, let me just say something. I'm warning you right now. Don't f***ing touch me.
Okay.
I'm a celebrity. Bro, look at my IMDb. Anyway, I'm kidding. You can touch me. But my point is this. It's okay because, number one, I'm a recovering drug addict myself. So we bond.
Bobby plays a bit here and warns George not to touch him. George is confused at first, but is reassured when Bobby plays it down by saying, "I'm kidding, you can touch me." George hangs on to this, believing that he and Bobby are back on even footing. However, this is not the case. Bobby has been waiting for George to stand his ground and speak Bobby's language by jokingly insulting him back. Bobby has been using various joking insults of increasing intensity up until this point. With this attack, Bobby is trying to force it out of George, but we see George still just accepting it. Bobby consoles George afterwards and makes George feel like they're back on even footing. But Bobby's true feelings of a growing disconnection are shown to us as Bobby begins to physically face more and more away from George.
On that level, right? As soon as I walked in the house, right? As soon as I looked, I've never met you before, have I?
Never.
Right. We already like, our eyes met, we locked, right? And we were like playing already.
Yeah.
It's almost as if,
Look where Bobby is facing, directly away from George, even sitting on the left side of his chair. Is this the body language of someone who was just kidding? George is leaned over his chair, beginning to feel that exclusion. This is where the bud of confusion and tension sparks within George, and in order to gain more clarity, he sets out to test Bobby to see if he was really kidding.
it's like if Ben Affleck, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Or, let me give me this.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt's.
Brad Pitt,
Right?
great choice. Great choice.
You like it?
Brad Pitt?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't.
He's great, dude, huh?
From top to bottom.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie by him?
Him? Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is amazing. Train that he just did was great.
I liked it. He's an
Amazing.
overall great guy. I don't know him.
George touches Bobby again, under the assumption that everything is fine. But when Bobby turns back around, he is now facing even more towards Logan and Mike, and even further away from George. Given that he didn't get a negative reaction after touching Bobby, George believes he is back on even footing with Bobby. But the joking insult from George is still missing. And the longer George goes without speaking Bobby's language, the greater Bobby's disconnection grows, and the greater George's internal confusion grows.
Because you are who you are, man.
What the Bobby?
What?
Why you? Why
You're strong, man. You're strong. You're funny. You got all. You have everything.
Cool friends.
So
You have,
this,
you have cool friends like this guy.
What about him?
No. He's
yeah.
on the fence. This guy's on the fence.
wait.
Super on the fence.
Wait. So what changed?
By saying he's on the fence, Bobby is indirectly taking the opportunity to tell George that his window of opportunity is closing, and that if he wants to be down with the gang, he needs to act quickly before Bobby's playful distaste turns genuine. Bobby is intentionally pressing George, trying to force an insulting joke out of him. But we just see George roll over and accept it again without reciprocating. A fatal mistake. Instead of saying, "Yeah, I'm getting told that by the guy whose stomach is hanging out of his shirt," George just agrees with it. This is the exact opposite of what Bobby wants, and after noticing this, Bobby's disconnection grows, feeling that he is running out of ways to send signals to George. After the window of opportunity closes, any reciprocity of jokes that George then tries to provide gets shut down, and the more he gets shut down, the more he spirals internally, feeling as if he has no way to express his boiling dissatisfaction.
Here, how about this? I know you. I feel you look like you have doughy eyes,
Yeah.
and you look sad right now.
A little bit.
I'm gonna give you a hug.
Really?
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't think that guy has feelings, bro.
I know.
Bobby turns to George, offering him another chance, but he doesn't touch him like he did before. Instead, he points. This drastic change from an intimate touch to a commanding point reveals to us something so insightful. Where Bobby previously touched George, implying that they were on the same level, he now orders George to speak with a point. Bobby is still giving George a chance, but this chance is dwindling. As we see in real time, Bobby's mannerisms grow more and more impersonal. George hits this one out of the park, but notice how he does this when the topic is his friend Logan. He feels comfortable doing this with Logan because he has known him longer. George holds Bobby to such a high degree that he doesn't want to provide pushback. But this lack of reciprocity is what's ultimately leading George into this death spiral of confusion and internal tension.
That guy's a robot.
May I hug?
I'll take your hug.
Why'd you ask them if you could hug him? Yeah, that was
nice, actually. That was nice. That was nice, Bobby.
George starts clapping immediately after noticing Bobby initiate the clap. George is super eager to please, as he's confused and he's focused on maintaining the relationship. Unfortunately, this eagerness to agree is really the opposite of what Bobby is truly looking for.
You can't spray your with cologne.
Why?
Because if you end up getting oral, they're gonna taste the cologne. You got to go under to the gooch, and everyone knows that.
He's got an answer.
No, I have an answer to that.
The side
Is that
gooch.
Yeah, right. Like
Side gooch.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but it can't be too heavy either. All right.
But what you guys don't get is that there's no girl in the horizon, right? So I spray it first.
Logan says, alright, denying the laugh to George's theatrics. Getting shut down by Logan here does not help, because George needs him as an outlet to show his humor, given that he holds Bobby in too high of a regard. This closing of another outlet only facilitates the boiling of that internal dissatisfaction.
Good. It smells good.
Just smell it.
He's right. It smells like cologne.
Does it really?
Like
Does it
what?
really?
Like,
It smelled like he sprayed it like 2 days ago.
but describe the scent.
Describe.
Okay, so 2 days ago he thought he was gonna get lucky and he didn't. That's what it smelled.
No,
like.
no, but describe the scent. Is
Yeah.
it more floral?
By the way,
Yeah.
that's not a stem. Good for you.
Thank you.
You're doing good.
Wow.
I love it. That's why I did it.
Wow.
When you
That's why I
pulled
did
on
it.
it, when you
Yeah,
pulled,
George smells Bobby's member and is physically uncomfortable through the entire process. Afterwards, George touches Bobby, not tentatively, but now as if they are good friends. George made a sacrifice here, and he is expecting it to have one good favor with Bobby. By doing that action, he made the sacrifice of outwardly acknowledging that he is the lowest member in the group. Bobby reciprocates this new assumption of friendship with a fist bump, but then immediately goes back to the impersonal, commanding point. This shows us that even though George won some points here, Bobby still has a disconnection towards him. As George realizes this, his blood begins to boil, recognizing internally that Bobby is not rewarding this sacrifice accordingly.
Misconception, or I don't know if it's a misconception in the Asian race that the tiny pieces. And I'd heard.
He says you could be racist. That's the
Dude,
first
dude,
joke
dude,
you
dude,
go to?
No, that's not racist.
Can I
Okay,
argue?
it's
May I argue?
Yes, sir.
All right.
George joins Bobby's side in applying pressure to Mike, under the assumption of friendship. This is where we now begin to see George be only comfortable using Mike as an outlet for his humor.
Do. Fuck you, man. Don't do me, man. All right. Do. Is he like mentally
Yes.
handicapped?
Yes. Listen,
I was gonna say the R word. That's reserved for you. Yeah. Say something. He's definitely R, but you, dude, don't do me, man. Right? So what were you gonna ask me?
I smelled your
because,
That's true.
because, bro, somebody even built another layer on top.
Bobby jokingly insults George again here. George does not reciprocate. He only accepts. George is laughing here, but he feels the need to remind Bobby of his previous sacrifice, and Bobby consoles him, taking that impersonal point back to a friendly touch. By bringing this back up, George is implicitly admitting here that he was trying to get something out of it, Bobby's friendship. But George is failing to realize that Bobby's invitation to friendship starts at joking insults.
You're the one named after a Confederate general, Robert Lee.
And I'm a huge fan of him too.
Oh my God.
In terms of Confederate generals.
Mike applies pressure onto Bobby, and we see that that is just what Bobby was looking for, taking Mike's comment and amplifying it for the purposes of comedy.
Well, in his defense, some girls hate sucking too. Like they don't like or anybody who likes sucking.
Have to do with anything.
Yeah, well, that's a nothing. That's a
just
that's
saying
a
something.
piece of information.
No, I think
That doesn't mean
No, that's a piece of information.
Whoa, hold
that
on.
You shouldn't have said
First
this
of all,
now.
first of all,
you ruined the flow of everything, dude.
You really did, George.
you're fully around when you're talking
Yeah,
to
okay,
me.
go ahead,
And
George.
second of all, no, there's gay guys like, I don't like sucking. It's not a gay thing. Some people just don't like sucking. Now turn around and know the wisdom I give you.
Whoa.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page now.
All right.
Thank you for clarifying.
So
George gets castigated again, and he begins to realize that nothing he sacrifices is going to be enough. And the only way forward is to demand his respect. The thing is, though, Bobby's window is so close to being closed, so in order to keep it open, George needs to demand his respect while also being funny or making a joke at Bobby. But we see George only demand his respect without making a full joke. And without the joke, the demand of respect just serves in closing that window rather than opening it.
how about you,
First of all, what's my name?
Mike? I mean, no, that's Mike.
nice.
George.
Wow. Let's go. One of us is going to stump
By the way, I
somebody
just
on
want
this
you-
show.
Again, the respect is demanded, but the playful, insulting joke isn't there. If we want to be as cohesive as possible here, the demanding of respect should be done indirectly through the implementation of that playful, insulting joke.
Absolutely. You can as many times as you want.
Don't ever go in my shop. Don't ever do my shop. So let me ask you this, okay?
Yep. Last time I ever talked to you about a fun,
She's
intriguing
beautiful.
analogy.
She's beautiful. But you know what? Can I just? Is that your girlfriend?
It is.
You know, it's so weird. Without fame, you wouldn't get that. Anyway,
You know what's weird? You know what's weird? You know what's
dude, if
weird?
you worked at,
I know.
you do right. If you worked at a falafel place, there's no way.
Okay, so why a falafel place?
Doesn't
You know
it look
what?
like a place
We're
that-
actually
yeah,
going to a Korean barbecue after.
George shows Bobby his girlfriend, and again only agrees to his joking insult. George tries to turn Bobby again, but he barely moves. Bobby engages in conversation with George, but he barely even looks at him while he speaks. Bobby's unwillingness to maintain eye contact here demonstrates to us that his disrespect is starting to become genuine. As we see, he is focused on sharing his laughter with Logan and Mike.
Am I being too aggressive? Am I
You're good. He goes
Okay.
double
Because
thumbs.
I have to check myself because I've wanted to say some crazy ass shit.
You should.
And I've been editing.
No, you should. You
No,
should.
I cannot. You know what I mean? With this guy. Anyway, let's go on. Go ahead. What was you gonna say? So?
I could go so many directions with you, but
Bobby is directly saying that George has not been able to catch on, and still we see George just accept it without returning fire.
I'm nervous because I've never done that before, but I just know that instinctually, if things went awry and it wasn't working, then I'm just being myself and I did the best I can. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm just trying to have fun and I'm playing with other guys that do the same thing that I do. So it's like I wouldn't think too much about it. You know? Yeah, go
without
ahead.
thinking too much about it,
Go ahead.
let me ask.
Bobby sends an indirect message to George as he begins to speak sentimentally. He looks down and to the right often when he speaks, trying to gauge George's reaction out of his peripherals.
And we would laugh. I would make fun of them, how fat Patrice is, back and forth. It's a language that, you know, I understand. It's the way I bond with people. I kind of equate it to back in the day, hundreds of years ago. They say the most f***ed up things, but it's a way of connecting, you know what I mean? And it's healthy, I think, in many ways.
We on this podcast have a little bit of different set of rules. That was beautiful.
I love you, man.
I love you too. When you're done, I would love to chime in on
I
that.
was just
Bobby touches George in a way that infantilizes him, as if to treat him like a baby. Confirmation to us that Bobby is trying to tell George that this sentimental talk is for him. However, it is disrespectful of Bobby at the same time, because by touching George in this way, Bobby is telling George and the audience that I had to treat you like a baby in order to get my message across. In the near future, George will begin to speak sentimentally as well, but it is not what Bobby is looking for. Bobby got sentimental to reassure George that it was alright for him to be insulting. This misread on both ends is going to allow us to bear witness to Bobby's extremely distasteful reaction to George's sentiment.
Like
Yeah.
the veil of what I'm allowed to say is much different because you live in that space of free form entertainment and no holds bars.
Well, you're a bigger name,
Well, what the
and there's more of a spotlight on you.
I do give when one of the things catches traction and then brands start pulling out and then people I'm partnered with maybe regret their decision to partner with me and it actually starts to affect my bottom line, my business. That's when it is a big deal. You know what I'm saying? It's
Logan cues Bobby into how different professions have different levels of freedom with regard to their expression and what they can say. By doing this, Logan is also implicitly standing up for George after seeing him be infantilized, trying to send the message to Bobby that we are not as necessarily free to say whatever we want as you are. Also implicitly sending the message that George may be more reserved at first because he has the podcast's best intentions in mind and doesn't want to overstep.
And when I was at Five Guys, it was simpler. It was me with my friends. It was also sorry. It was
Your touches are very
aggressive.
hard and aggressive.
I'm so sorry.
Even that little poke, if it's like my body shuddered.
I was
And I don't know if it's
I
your
saw
vibe or you know what I mean, but just don't do it again.
okay, I won't.
You beat him.
Yeah.
But I reflected on that, and when I
George touches Bobby, but this time with that finger of authority. Even while things are sentimental, Bobby still has a visceral reaction to it. Bobby can't place it, exclaiming that it's just George's vibe. George's unresolved internal confusion and tension is manifesting itself in a non-cohesive manner, as George assumes that finger of authority instead of a more neutral touch that assumes equal footing.
what am I going to be doing if this doesn't
Because
happen?
it's not real.
I'm
future is
stressing
not
about
real.
A mirage. And for me to like, dude, like I didn't even know I was gonna be with my best friends doing a podcast where, and I don't mean this in a way, but like, dude, this put me on a very strong map, and it made a lot of my avenues blow up. So I'm
It's
very
like that's-
blessed, but I didn't know I was gonna be here. So
It's
for
like
me-
that's. You done? It was just a long monologue.
He was just waiting. He was
And let me just say something. I loved what you were saying. It was just very long. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
usually
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
That's usually.
But you know, I got what you're saying, and you really inspired me, George. Can I say something?
comedians suck.
No.
I hate comedians.
No, I want to say something.
Sebastian sucked, left me on red.
Yeah.
Because Bobby and Logan got sentimental, George felt that he had the green light, but Bobby shut him down. George comes out with comedians suck because he feels he has sacrificed so much in the name of just getting along with Bobby, and he doesn't feel respected at all.
You suck. First of all, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Do not
Okay,
touch
my
me.
bad, my bad.
Thank you.
All right, but yeah, we just need writers to edit that down.
Since he feels that nothing he can do will work, he has no other option but to disengage and write Bobby off, now becoming sternly authoritative when cutting the physical connection with Bobby.
If we had a staff of writers, they'd be like, "Yeah, we'll cut that." But
I'm sorry.
essentially, it was a really good monologue.
Usually when I do my comedy, I don't have writers in the room. I actually write my own stuff.
Okay, I can tell.
I
But
like
maybe you should get a writer. But my point is,
Getting hit with wicked combos left and right, how can George possibly recover from this?
some people aren't built to handle that. Others are.
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no!
Oh, I tuned you guys.
I
all
saw
out.
you. I was looking at you. I'm like, yo, he's delivering a beautiful
I
message.
thought you guys
here.
were, because your
No.
back was towards me. So
No.
I thought you guys were talking to each other. My bad.
He said something during this podcast, and I'm going to reiterate.
Mm.
Do you listen?
No.
No, he's under a lot of stress over there.
Why?
I'm taking George's
Why?
because he was delivering a very heartfelt message, and now
Are you really sensitive right now and sad?
no, he's
Fuck,
good.
I'm
You're
going
doing
out
a bit.
with
You're doing a bit.
I'm-
Yeah. Okay.
You promise you're
really-
doing a bit?
What?
Promise you're doing a bit?
You're doing a bit right
going
now.
along
Oh,
with
he
it.
is. He is.
I-
He's fine. He's fine. Cut, guys.
Yeah,
all right?
yeah,
It's like you're in the locker room whipping each
Yeah.
other with towels. Cut
Right.
George zones out and then calls out how Bobby has had his back towards him this whole podcast. Afterwards, for George to say that this is just a bit is him recognizing that he's out of options. He has let it spiral for so long that any playful response is likely going to be taken as resentment. The longer this spirals out of control, the more that suppressed energy turns to resentment, and the fewer options George has as his blood boils beneath the surface, collecting tension until something explodes.
She's
What'd you
running
say?
back.
Said pull it out again.
I think she said run it back.
Bro, no, she's the realtor in the porn sites, though. The one that she's not actually a realtor.
Redemption for George. Yeah.
That's funny. All right. What were you saying, Bobby Lee?
I don't know what I was saying.
As we see Logan and Mike laugh and cheer for the redemption of George, Bobby is still facing away from him, still not laughing. Bobby simply won't allow it.
Koreans that died in Halloween.
Respectfully, can you get out of my shot?
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Shot?
Yeah. My bad. I did what you did. My bad.
Hey.
Yeah.
What Koreans?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a big trampling.
Yeah.
Logan notices that George has shut down and has just stopped participating. So he implements a fascinating tactic. In an attempt to build the camaraderie of the three hosts back up, Logan tells Bobby to get out of his shot. This not only puts Bobby in his place, but it allows Logan to indirectly tell George that he remembers when Bobby disrespected him earlier.
Man,
Absolutely. You can as many times as you want.
you don't ever go in my shot. Don't ever do my shot. So let me ask you this, okay?
Yep.
There are certain.
He is clocked out.
Yeah,
he's-
I know.
George has been under a tremendous amount of abuse.
No,
No, stop, George. I want you over here with me. George, I want you over here with me. Chase him down. Go. You find him. George, no, go get him.
George calls it off, gets up, and leaves. Bobby has indirectly made advancements against him the entire podcast. But notice how it was Logan who was the last straw. The combo of Bobby's disrespectful infantile touch paired with the comment from Logan, who was one of his only other outlets, makes George feel that the level of disrespect is just too high to permit. Each time a joke is made, George smiles and does not correct Bobby or try to put him in his place at all. We show our celebration of each other's jokes not just through a smile and acceptance of that joke, but an actual reciprocation of a joke of similar intensity. A reciprocation of a joke not only shows acceptance, but also that you are willing to roll in the mud with them. By only accepting the jokes and not reciprocating, this lack of engagement on George's end causes Bobby to feel that, while tolerated, he's not being celebrated how he usually is. This is what causes Bobby to start an offensive against George, only leading to George's resentment and internal tension until he just can't take it anymore. It is beneficial to be accepting of things in the beginning of a relationship, but when we don't taper it and begin correcting that person over time, their jokes made toward us can quickly spiral out of control, as it can cause us to feel as if they are decreasing our respect amongst the group. This feeling of disrespect then fuses into one of resentment, and if there are no outlets of expression, that internal resentment will boil and boil until it pops. Was Bobby being too harsh, pushing around someone not used to people like him, or was it George's fault for stepping into the lion's den? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to see more content like this, and subscribe to the newsletter for more on strategic communication. My name is Glidget Ronan. Thank you so much for watching.